The French Revolution, a descent into chaos and bloodshed. The French Revolution was supposed to be about liberty, equality, and fraternity, a glorious uprising against tyranny. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of how quickly ideals can twist into horror. What started as a revolt against oppression spiraled into paranoia, purges, and unchecked bloodshed. The streets of Paris, once filled with hope, soon ran red. Now, before we move on with the story, please help a small channel grow. Like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Okay, back to the story. A kingdom on the brink. France in the late 18th century was a disaster waiting to happen. King Louis XVI, well-meaning but weak, presided over a nation drowning in debt. Years of reckless spending, failed wars, and a tax system that crushed the poor while sparing the rich had left the country bankrupt. The nobility and clergy lived in obscene luxury, untouched by financial ruin, while peasants starved. Bread prices soared, hunger spread, and resentment festered. When Louis XVI finally called the Estates General in 1789, a medieval assembly of the clergy, nobility, and commoners, it was too little, too late. The Third Estate, representing 98% of the population, demanded real reform. When they were ignored, they broke away, declaring themselves the National Assembly. Their defiance was sealed with the tennis court oath, a vow to keep fighting until France had a constitution. The revolution had begun, and there would be no turning back. The storming of the Bastille, bloodshed begins on July 14, 1789. Rage exploded in Paris. A furious mob stormed the Bastille, a fortress prison that symbolized royal oppression. The governor, Bernard René de Launay, tried to surrender, but it didn't matter. The crowd hacked him to death, stuck his head on a pike, and paraded it through the streets. This wasn't just a political act, it was a warning. The people had tasted blood, and they wanted more. The great fear and the reign of the mob rumors spread like wildfire. Nobles were hoarding grain, foreign armies were coming to slaughter the revolution. Peasants, armed with whatever they could find, burned manor houses and slaughtered aristocrats. The Women's March on Versailles turned into a nightmarish spectacle. Thousands of starving women, armed with knives and pitchforks, surrounded the palace, screaming for the Queen's head. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were dragged back to Paris as prisoners. The monarchy was finished. The radicals take control. At first, the revolution was led by moderates, men who believed in constitutional monarchy and gradual reform. But as the crisis deepened, radicals like Maximilien Robespierre rose to power. By 1792, France was declared a republic, and the king was put on trial. In January 1793, Louis XVI was guillotined. His last words were drowned out by the roll of drums. Marie Antoinette followed months later, her hair whitened by fear before the blade fell. The Reign of Terror, a nation devours itself. Robespierre and his allies believed terror was necessary to save the revolution. The Committee of Public Safety became a killing machine. Revolutionary tribunals sentenced thousands to death with no real evidence. The law of suspects meant anyone could be arrested for the vaguest hint of disloyalty. The guillotine worked day and night, 16,594 official executions, with countless more dying in massacres and prison massacres. No one was safe. Former heroes of the revolution, like Georges Danton, were executed for being too soft. Radical firebrands like Jacques Hébert were purged for being too extreme. Even scientists, poets, and nuns were dragged to the scaffold. The streets smelled of iron and death. The cult of reason and the destruction of tradition. Churches were looted, priests murdered. Notre Dame was turned into a temple of reason, where mock ceremonies mocked religion. The revolutionaries invented a new calendar, erasing Sundays to destroy Christianity. France was being remade in blood and fire. The fall of Robespierre. But terror, once unleashed, is hard to control. Robespierre's paranoia grew until even his allies feared him. When he demanded yet another purge, the convention turned on him. On July 28, 1794, Robespierre was arrested, his jaw shattered by a gunshot. The next day, he was guillotined without trial, his death met with cheers from the same crowds that once adored him. The terror was over, but the damage was done. The aftermath: from chaos to Napoleon, the Directory took power, but corruption and instability festered. Into this mess stepped a young general named Napoleon Bonaparte. By 1799, he seized control in a coup, ending the revolution with the very thing it had fought against, a dictatorship. The legacy of blood: the revolution had promised freedom but delivered mass executions. The Vendée uprising saw entire villages wiped out, men, women, children slaughtered in the name of liberty. The ideals of 1789 had curdled into something monstrous. In the end, the French Revolution proved a dark truth: revolutions, once they start consuming their own, rarely end well. The guillotine, meant to be an instrument of justice, became a symbol of madness. And the revolution's greatest lesson? That absolute power, even in the name of freedom, corrupts absolutely. The shadows of the terror still linger, a warning of what happens when rage overrules reason, and bloodshed becomes the only language left. Thank you for watching my video. Please, like and subscribe.